This is where dwarves compete to craft the finest brews for Orctober Fest. Who knows, maybe world domination starts with the best beer in Fantasy Brewers.
And today we'll be teaching you how to play Fantasy Brewers, game designed by Michael Schacht and published by Grail Games. And do check out a link to the project page in the video description below.
And hi everyone, it's Stella.
And Tarrant, welcome to Meeple University.
And hey, if you enjoyed this video after watching, like, subscribe and comments. You know what to do. Alright, now let's get to the classroom.
In Fantasy Brewers, players play the role of brewers in a fantasy land, trying to have the highest scoring selection of brews for the annual Orctober Fest festival. Round by round, players will send their workers out to the different halls to take the best actions, and use their larger workers to either jostle for position or earn a bit of protection money on the side. Whoever can best tactically use these actions to get the highest scoring combination of building upgrades, beverages and more will be the winner. I'll take you through the 3 and 4 player rules first and explain the differences for 2 players at the end of the video. To set up, lay out the main board with the calendar marker on round 1. You can play the beginner game over 5 rounds or the advanced game over 6. Find the door pieces marked A and C, flip them both so they're on their right hand sides and cover the appropriate side of the matching doors. Set up all the various decks of cards. The blue cards are assistants, growers, labourers, brewers and brewmasters. Each card within each of these stacks is identical and has an active and inactive side. Stack them in the common display on their active sides. The green cards are goods, and there are 5 different types. And again, each card within each of these stacks is identical. You've got hops, peat, cows, sheep and pigs. And each card has an upgraded side. The hops become premium beer, the peat becomes smoked whiskey, and each of the animals becomes a larger version of that same animal. The upgraded sides show this confetti on the icon in the top left corner, and you begin with them on their unupgraded sides. Keep goods and assistants near the board for players to take throughout the game. Then there are the 3 decks of building cards, homesteads, extensions and statues. Like the goods, these have an upgraded side known as the decorated side, which shows confetti in both the icon and the picture. And to begin the game, these should all be flipped to their undecorated sides. All cards in the statue deck are identical, but the homesteads and extensions have a variety of different cards in them. Shuffle those 2 decks, then place all 3 decks in their slots of the board, and lay out a market of 4 further homesteads and 4 further extensions, meaning that in both cases, including the card on top of the deck, there's a market of 5. Give each player a player board and their 3 coloured meeples, small, medium and large. Give each player a brewery card. This will tell you your starting resources and any special powers you have throughout the game. In your first beginner's game, that is the 5-round game, give everyone the standard 1 helmet brewery. And in your first 6-round advanced game, give everyone the standard 2 helmet card. Once you're familiar with the game, you can deal out 3 helmet cards, again used for the 6-round advanced game, to provide unique and varied starting conditions for each player. Whatever the case, you now gain the resources and cards showing in the middle and bottom of the brewery. So here it's 9 coins, 2 festival tokens, 1 face up and 1 face down, and then these 4 cards all on their starting sides. The middle and bottom part of this card are not used again, while the top strip of the card tells you any ongoing effects that this card has during the game. Make supplies of the leftover coins, as well as the victory point markers and the penalty markers. Choose a first player and you're now ready to play. Fantasy Brewers plays in either 5 or 6 rounds, and each round plays in 4 phases. These are placing workers, where one at a time players will place their workers in the city from smallest to largest, gaining rewards, and jostling for best position at each of the gates. Second is taking actions. From door A to door C, and from the front of the queue to the back, players will choose an unselected action, take the bonus on both the left and right hand side of the door, and do this strategically to try to earn as many points, benefits and buildings as they can. Once all actions are taken, you'll move to Upkeep, in which players must pay to maintain the cards they've gathered, or suffer the penalty. And then finally is Cleanup, where the board is reset for the next round. Throughout the game, players will be collecting, using and converting a variety of cards, and in all cases, players are limited to holding no more than 3 of a given card at a time. If an action would ever give you a 4th, you simply do not gain that 4th. For non-animal goods, this means you can hold no more than 3 peat, 3 hops, 3 premium beer, or 3 whiskey. For animal goods, you cannot hold more than 3 of the animal, whether large or small. This would be the limit. For each type of assistant, you can have at most 3, whether they're face up or face down. For extensions and for homesteads, treat the undecorated and decorated cards as different types, so you can hold at most 3 of each. And for statues, you may have at most 3, whether decorated or not. So now let's look at each phase in detail. First is placing workers. This phase takes place in turns, starting from the first player and going clockwise around the table. On your turn, you'll place your smallest remaining worker and place it in one of 4 possible locations. These are at door A, door B, or door C, or in the tavern. When you place at a door, you'll form a queue. So the first worker placed at a given door goes at the head of the queue, and any subsequently placed worker is placed behind it. When you place your small worker in front of a door, you immediately gain the benefit underneath that door. In this case, both of these players would gain 2 coins. This applies only to your single small worker. Other worker sizes get no immediate reward. Within each queue, larger workers have the opportunity to muscle their way to the front ahead of smaller workers. As soon as you've placed a worker, check from front to back in that queue, and if you encounter any smaller workers, the owner of that worker has the choice to either pay you 1 coin to hold its place in the queue, or to decline to pay and then move to the back of the queue. This is called paying protection money. Resolve these choices and payments from front to back. Here, yellow would first have the choice to pay purple, then blue. Workers never interact with other workers of the same colour, so in this case the large yellow worker would be first trying to extort the purple medium worker, then the blue small one, and they never interact with their own size, so in this case the chain of payments would first be yellow small, then purple medium. Your other choice is to visit the tavern. Everyone is an equal at the tavern. There is no queue and there is no paying of protection money. However, there's also no action here in the actions phase. The only thing that happens when you visit the tavern is you gain this immediate benefit regardless of the size of the worker placed. This is different to the city doors where only a small-sized worker claims the immediate bonus. Once all workers are placed, you'll move on to taking actions. This is resolved from door A, then B, then C, and each player takes turns in the order that their workers are queued at that door. So here, blue would take the first turn, then purple, then yellow twice at door A, then blue at door B, and so on. At each door, 1/2 is visible with 6 different actions printed, and the other half shows the door itself with a single action. On doors A and C, this will periodically flip throughout the game, while on door B, the choices of actions are always on the left, and the right-hand side action, although it has many icons, is always selling goods. To take your action, move your worker to an empty slot among the 6. In either order, resolve the action you covered and the action on the other side of the door. You can choose an action slot even if you don't want to or can't take that action. And for any single action you don't resolve, you may instead gain 1 coin. In a case where more than 6 workers choose the same door, any leftover workers spend their turn going to the tavern and gaining the usual reward, even if they'd already gained the small worker reward at their door. This option cannot be done by choice, it's allowed only when more than 6 workers are present at one door. So now let's look at all the different actions. This action simply allows you to gain 2 coins. This action lets you flip a festival token. At the start of the game, your brewery card will give you access to some number of festival tokens, which can be either on their white popular sides or their black unpopular sides. This action simply lets you flip a black token to its white side. If you gain this effect but all your tokens are already white side up, then the effect is wasted. I'll explain how you use these festival tokens when we come to the upkeep phase. Actions like these ones let you hire a new assistant. This, for example, would be to pay 1 coin to hire a labourer. This would be pay 1 coin to hire a brewer. Take the relevant card and add it face up to your collection of assistants below your board. Actions like these let you purchase unupgraded goods. This, for example, would be paying 1 coin to gain 1 hops, which you add to your goods row at the top of your board. If the supply of any type of goods is empty when you go to get one, then you cannot gain those goods. This action here is to spend a beer to gain a sheep, and this is a different type of resources involving your assistants. Any time an effect in the game requires you to spend a beer, a grain, or a strength, you must have a face-up assistant with the matching icon on it, and flip that assistant face down. Your starting brewmaster card can be flipped down for any single one of the 3 icons. The cost in the action I just showed you was beer, so I've flipped down a brewer to gain 1 sheep. Once an assistant has been flipped over, the only way to reactivate it to use again is with an effect with this icon. You'll find this in many places, including the door actions, and in this case, this action is to flip 1 assistant face up again. This action is to flip 2 assistants. Actions with this icon allow you to gain victory points during the game. Here, for example, it's victory points for brewers. If I took this action, I'd count up all of my brewer cards, whether face up or face down, and gain a victory point token for each. On door C, this includes actions which give you victory points for stars, in which case you score for cards which show a star in the lower right corner. The next action is sell, represented by this icon. That means if I took this action, I'd flip a festival token and get to sell once, while if I took this action, I would get to sell twice. Each time you sell, choose a single type of goods. Then sell any number of cards of that type from your collection back to the supply for the cost printed on the right-hand side of this door. Here, for example, it was 2 hops for 3 coins each, a total of 6. You can only sell a single type of goods in one action. You can't mix and match. But if you're selling animals, you can mix and match the size. Here, for example, selling 3 pigs, 1 large and 2 small, for a total of 16 coins. then any time you make a sale, also check the special sale effect on the round track, since this could give you some extra benefit for selling in a certain way within a certain round. For example, each sale action in round 1 gives you a total of 2 extra coins on top of the combined money that you made from the sale, while in round 2, if you sell pigs or hops, you immediately gain 1 peat. The final action is build. When you build 1 card from the market at its printed cost, so 10 coins for an extension, 8 for a statue, or 4 for a homestead, or decorate a card you already have by flipping it over for a cost of 3 coins. When you build from the market, leave the empty space in the market. The amount of choice will reduce as the round goes on, except that if you build from the top of the deck, the card beneath it becomes available immediately. Extensions are the most expensive of the buildings, but the most functional throughout the game, as each of these grants you some sort of ongoing passive ability while it's on its undecorated side. For example here, it's every time you do the sell action you get a point, or every time you gain a goods card you flip back 2 of your assistants, or every time you hire an assistant you gain a coin. Most extensions have an upkeep cost in strength, meaning you'll have to have enough labourers to pay for them at the end of each round. Once you decorate an extension, you lose its special power, it no longer costs upkeep, and it will be worth 5 points. Homesteads, which cost 4 coins, offer ways of scoring victory points at the end of the game. Here, for example, it's a raw 7 points, or half a point for every coin you hold at game's end, or 6 points for every undecorated extension. Most homesteads have an upkeep cost in beer, and once decorated, always flip over to be worth 10 points. All statues are simply worth 5 points undecorated or 10 points decorated. They have an upkeep cost of a coin, which never changes. A few other actions and things to know. As we saw during setup, the hops cards when flipped become premium beer, and the peat cards when flipped become smoked whiskey. If you finish the game with these goods, there's a lot of points on offer. For example, holding 1 premium beer is worth 3 points, holding 2 is worth 6 each for 12, and holding 3 is worth 10 each for 30. However, there is no standard door action which lets you make such a flip. The main ways to gain this effect are with the sale bonus actions in rounds 3 and 5. You get a single flip in round 3 if you sell cows or hops, and a single flip in round 5 if you sell pigs or sheep. This is a single flip per action, but do note that you can sell the same goods multiple times on different actions in the same round to line yourself up for multiple flips. Other ways to perform these flips, such as this extension card effect, are few and far between, and these are strictly used to flip hops and peat, not to flip animals to their larger size. In the advanced game, selling in round 6 gives you another good way of gaining points. After you've made any sale action, if you're now holding 15 or more coins, you immediately gain a 5-point token. Finally, keep in mind your starting brewery card. In the top left corner, there may be some special ongoing passive ability. For example, with the basic 1 helmet card, anytime you take a sale action, you also get to flip 2 of your assistants face up again. When you get to the 2 and 3 helmet breweries, some of the cards have no ongoing effect. Once actions are resolved, proceed to Upkeep. In Upkeep, you'll have to pay the costs in the top right corners of any cards at the top of your board, using assistants and other resources from the bottom of your board. Cards with an Upkeep cost are your buildings, your animals, and in some cases, your starting brewery. Here I have a total upkeep of 2 grain, 2 beer, 1 strength, and 2 coins. Pay these costs. Let's suppose I pay the strength with this assistant. Use the grower's grain to pay for this cow. Pay this brewer for a homestead. And the coin for the statue. Here I have a deficiency of 3 total resources. For each point of deficiency, start flipping white festival tokens over to their black sides. If all tokens are on their black sides, take a 3-point penalty token, flip them all back over to white, and continue going. So in that case, my first point of deficiency flipped them both to black. The second point of deficiency gave me the 3-point penalty and flipped them white. And the third point of deficiency flips one of them to black. You suffer no other penalty from your failure to pay. And for each animal goods card which you did feed, flip it over from its small to its large side if not already. You must make payments if you can. You are not allowed to voluntarily take penalties. Finally, it's time for cleanup. Whichever player had taken the final action, that is, whoever was last in the queue on door C, becomes the first player for the next round. Players retrieve their workers and refill the market of buildings. Now flip one of the doors. When you're moving from round 1 to round 2, flip door A from right to left. In each subsequent round, flip the door you didn't flip last time. So at the end of round 2, flip door C to the left. At the end of round 3, flip door A to the right, and so on. Now advance the round marker and proceed to the next worker placement. After the 5th or 6th round is complete, and that includes paying a final upkeep phase, the game is over and you'll count up final scores. Score 1 point for each of your face-up and face-down cards, regardless of what's printed on it. Then additionally score the points printed on each card. So here it would be 5 points raw for each of these. Points for my premium beers and whiskey, as described before, this would be 10 per card for a total of 30, and this would be 5 for the single card. And score the objectives on homesteads. Here it's 4 points per decorated extension, so this would be 8, and half a point per leftover coin. Rounded down, that would be 3. Gain a point for every 5 leftover coins, and score the positive and negative points on your points and penalty tokens. The player with the highest score wins. If tied, most labourer cards breaks the tie, and if still tied, victory is shared. When playing Fantasy Brewers with 2 players, flip the board over to its 2-player side. Take your 3 coloured meeples as normal, and then in setup, whoever takes the starting player token also takes the white seasonal worker. Whoever has this worker will take 4 worker placements this round, the other player will take 3. You'll place the seasonal worker last, and it acts like a large worker in your colour for all purposes. That means if it were yellow making this placement, the only opposing meeple who might need to pay protection is the small blue worker. It would then be yellow using this worker to take an action in normal queue order, and in this specific case, since it's yellow taking the last action, yellow will be first player next round. Although it's the first player who takes the seasonal worker in round 1, this is not the case all game, and this worker alternates between the 2 players. If you're playing the 5-round game, simply don't use this worker in round 5. If you're playing the 6-round game, continue alternating as normal.
Thanks for watching, and if you liked this video, maybe you'd like to watch this next one. Have a great day. Bye!